Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Serious Business Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things news in the Magic related world. Later on in the broadcast, we're going to be talking about Origin spoilers. We're going to be talking about the run-up to GP Lille and all the implications in recent Legacy tournaments, and maybe a bit of a talk about some of the current competitive scene in Ireland. With me today for this conversation is
Bernard,
Dan Gilligan,
Dave Murphy.
We're just going to have a quick kick-off into the recent...
Why don't you introduce yourself before
and of course, myself,
myself.
Eamon Jones. I assume because I've been all the recent broadcasts, everyone just knows me by voice.
well, he's famous.
Yeah,
He is
absolutely.
famous, yeah.
Big deal on the internet.
Mr.
They're
Serious
part of Rich
Business.
Mahogany.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're first going to start off with the recent Star City tournaments. The recent Legacy ones, the weekly Legacy... It's really the best way of seeing how Legacy is shaping up going forward in terms of Magic. It's the one that has the quickest one, especially because there's no Legacy Pro Tours or anything like that. So last week there was actually, just a few days ago, was GP Baltimore, which
Baltimore IQ, right?
Baltimore IQ, not a GP. Sorry,
Close enough.
Close. Well, they are actually close enough at this point, probably.
Huge amount of players, especially they're really the thing keeping Legacy alive. And the top 8 was kind of telling of the format and not quite as well. Going into Legacy, this one, I would have thought that Mono Blue Omni Show would have been the best deck. But the top 8 was Sultai Delver, Imperial Death and Taxes, Dredge, 4-color Delver, so no white in that list, which I know, Dan, you've got some words to talk about that deck. 3 Miracles lists. And a Grixis Delver. Sultai Delver actually taking it down, which is pretty interesting.
I guess the most telling thing is triple miracles.
Absolutely.
Besides
Triple Delver too.
triple Delver,
Yeah.
Delver has all kind of different tastes. I made my argument last week. I think it was last week we were talking about bannings, about Delver maybe being bannable, just to bring a bit of the decks will stay nearly the exact same, but at least the different colours bring different threats. Opposed to now, it's just. Blue not only has the good counter spells, the good draw spells, it also has the good threat. Opposed to the old days where you had to play green for Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf going for. Red now has your own Pyromancer, and the decks at least. I know the Delver decks are different, but they feel even more different.
Without a 1-drop threat, though, do you think the decks might just drop off the scene completely?
It'll make a big difference, I think.
It would make a difference, but I think they could find threats to suit them. I think the real culprits are like Force of Will and Brainstorm, really.
Well,
these decks.
I suppose we can get onto bannings, I guess, a little bit later on. No point getting straight in and start cutting Delver's head off at the top of the show. Let's at least give him his chance to shine here. He just won a tournament. Leave him alone for a bit.
But the two things, Omni Show not showing up is a big deal. We were talking about that deck maybe being broken. And we can't see the rest. We can't see records. They don't give that much out on these events. But Triple Miracles and Triple Delver, and that's pretty telling of the format, I think.
Yeah, Miracles has definitely been the I think the deck with the target on its back the most, but it's such a good deck. I really enjoy it a lot. I know, Dan, you're a big proponent of it.
A big grin on my face here just thinking
like,
about it.
I love it.
I know. Like I've plenty to say about the deck. I do love the deck. I've been playing it for a while now. Like for a long time, I was watching it kind of, and I was playing some Death Blade decks and stuff, messing around a little bit with that, some Derry Shamans and stuff. But it's such a well-rounded deck. I think is really the power in the deck comes from how well rounded it is. It just has this, it does kind of the same thing every game. It plays a lot of redundant pieces. It plays like Brainstorm's Ponders, obviously the Sensei's Divining Top. It has a lot of ways to find what it wants to do. Has the counter Ponders, and then has kind of this game plan where it just stops what you're doing. It plays like efficient removal. And it just has a late game that just beats most of what everyone else is doing. So
I think as well, it's one of those decks where to play it well, your play level has to be very high, and I think that's kind of, for me, puts it up as almost a poster boy of Legacy. This is the deck that if you were good at Magic, if you understand really what makes a Magic game, what makes a deck tick, that Miracles is really a great way of playing.
I understand the format as well.
Absolutely.
Of course, is a big thing as well. For sure.
It does. There's still not only being good at Magic. You need reps with the deck. There's a couple of not so intuitive things and basic mistakes people make with it. For example, I've seen people have lapses in tournaments where they first played it and forget that the miracle card has to be the first drawn card of the turn, and make mistakes with flipping a Sensei's Divine on top after already having drawn a card. Or brainstorming at the end of the turn, putting stuff back and then going flip to miracle. No, you've drawn off the brainstorm.
Exactly.
So there is nuances with every legacy deck where there's not, because this mechanic hasn't shown up in Magic besides this one short period in Standard. People forget how it works, or people come into the game later and don't have a rhythm with it, and that can throw people off guard.
They forget it's a trigger that you can stifle. And
or
Vendilion
Clique.
Vendilion Clique. If you show the trigger, you can actually clique the thing away without before they get a chance to cast it. So there is a lot of small little things like that are not so obvious, and actually a lot of them just come from Sensei Divine Top in itself. There's a lot of little tricks there.
Yeah, a lot of ways to stack both abilities.
Exactly. If you cast Events or Shaper Savant and put them back in your hand before you draw the card.
Checking the top card before you draw, things like that.
I know I did a bit of testing with Dan there, and one thing that, and even though it's currently in Standard that isn't intuitive, is how fast a dig through time can be cast in the format, and having to play around that, and from it not being on your radar at all to in a turn being on your radar, and maybe having responded to it too slow.
You just brainstorm and fetch twice, and all of a sudden the graveyard's full.
And it's coming next turn.
Dan, for you being the main Miracles player at this table, what is your feeling about one or maybe even two Monastery Mentors as an alternate win condition? It's pretty quick.
It is quick, and I kind of didn't really think much of it until I lost really badly to it. When we were at GP Utrecht, I played a Legacy Side event with Deathblade, and I played against a guy, and I had the game so well wrapped up. He had like 2 draw steps, and he was dead. And he just goes, play the Mentor. I'm like, oh no. Oh no!
Did he have 2 tops?
He had 1, and then he goes, play the Mentor. I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like 7 other mana or something. He goes, okay, tap the top, put on top. I'm like, okay, play a top. I'm like, is that the same one?
No.
What's happening here? Where's that other top gone? I'm like, no. And he plays another one, does that messing around, and he just had like a million guys, and I just lost so quickly.
For people who don't know, with this, with the Mentor out on the field, if you've got 2 tops, it effectively turns into pay 1 mana, make a 1/1 prowess monk, and trigger prowess. So really, it's a 1-turn clock. Effectively, most of the time, you're just like, if you have enough mana, it's just like, okay, I'm going to make a million monks, and next turn you have to win.
Next turn I just do it again and put my whole team by 10, and then kill you.
The strategy was kind of made by what's his name, Joe Lassett.
He plays a huge amount of Miracles.
Well, he kind of revolutionised the last couple of times. That was a niche control deck a couple of years ago. It came in a bit of prominence. He played it a lot and helped sculpt it. He's not only a big fan of Mentor, but because the mirror is everywhere, as you can see now, he plays Cavern of Souls.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the news.
He plays Snapcaster Mage, and he plays Vendilion Clique and like Avencer.
Yeah.
So it's a more creature heavy. You have Cavern because resolving Snapcasters in the mirror is outrageous, and resolving Vendilion Cliques.
You get to name Wizard as well.
Wizard,
You get
Caracas is in there as
and
well.
Caracas as a one-off in the deck. So
he plays 2 off Caracas actually, and a lot of times because he plays like up to 3 Vendilion Cliques and events are in the main. So he just does that trick in where
the build is so good. He was saying that he's beating other Miracle players that have more cards in hand, better board position. They might have the counterbalance combo assembled, and he's still managing to beat them through it because mostly of the caverns, because the deck doesn't really play any ways to deal with lands.
Yeah.
Once you have the Cavern, Caracas, Spencer, it's very hard to lose.
It's very hard for them to lose, and to the extent where you might concede to save time, because it's going to take them a while to win. But you can't beat that lock.
This was actually my feeling on when I watched the deck a lot in some of the events, was that people were kind of skimming on the win cons. For example, like the what's the Angels card?
Entreat
the Angels. It was like cutting that down to 1 and then to 0 and trying to win with like
Jace.
With Jace and all the things. And I was like, there was something like when you have the headlock on and there's very little they can do about it. It's just like I like having 1 or 2 cards. So you just go, game's over.
The Entreat is actually it's a big deal. I actually cut down to 1 myself recently enough, and I was locking up games and just not being able to win on time, and I was getting draws when I shouldn't have been because I just didn't have that kind of easy access win. It was say in the bottom quarter of your deck, and you just sit there spinning your tires for God knows how long. It's doing nothing at all.
There's 2 different people at GPs, and there's the one that wants to be done in 5 minutes, and then they can go talk to buddies and rest and get something to eat. and there's the guy that's saying, you know, I don't like waiting around for 20 minutes. Let's just play every minute of this round.
Yeah,
And then I'm right into the next round of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true.
I usually play a deck that has a decent quick win con, and it always frustrates me when I go up against someone who has that control deck and doesn't quite have it put away, and you can come back and you're like, cool, this person's going to draw me out, and they're just going to be out of the tournament because they get like their 4 draws and it's over for them. Whereas now it's just I've got a draw on my record that makes my breakdowns just way horrible. My tie break's awful.
Wasn't there an Irish player that drew 4? Was it Connor Harding?
Connor Harding drew 4 times, yeah. With,
none of them intentional.
The blue-black Esper, the Esper Dragons, yeah.
That was when the mirror match was everywhere for a short while,
Yeah.
4 times GP.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd be very. That was actually a talk. Another player, he had 4 draws in a GP as well, and sometimes the judge does come and talk to them. I think that something has to be. But anyway, we're going to as well look at some of the other decks here. You have some printed out there, is there any that you're interested in talking about, especially like Delver in the format as well. I like the different flavors of it as well. But Death and Taxes. This recent one with Imperial Recruiter, I think it's just pretty well suited. It actually came in second at the recent IQ, and it just seems really well suited right now. It knows because the format's kind of settled down a little bit. Before it used to be like, oh, there's 20 different decks in Legacy. Really, it's kind of settled down to now maybe 10, and that's kind of a low enough number that you can play a Death and Taxes deck and just kind of hit them and.
I think it being a European GP as well, we're going to see a lot of Death and Taxes anyway.
For Lille, yeah.
In general, you seem to see it crop up a lot more when it's in Europe. Like Star City kind of sets its own metagame, but it may not be indicative of what we'll see at this GP. Like,
That's fair.
Yeah, there's something about the Americans that don't touch that deck, and they've made jokes about Europeans being over on holiday and crushing an event because they've had Death and Taxes with them, and a bunch of the combo decks that the Americans play in the Miracles deck. Miracles isn't soft to it, but Death and Taxes has good games all over the field, and players necessarily maybe not even being as good as some of the Americans they're playing against, but Talia and company just wreck some of these decks, especially the meta game in America seems to shift a lot to. So this is what I would call the fair meta game. This has Miracles and Delver. People are playing that, and those are the quote unquote fair decks. Yeah. They just play some creatures, they play some spells, they blow up your creatures. That's fine. But we were talking about Omni Show not showing up. Every now and again, America shifts to sneak and show metagame, where it's how fast can I sneak and show out threats. There's different flavors all the time. Now we're on Omni Show. Before that, we were just on typical sneak and show with a sneak attack and stuff like that.
Which was
and then sometimes even faster combo decks like Storm then become good because they're slightly faster at turn oneing and twoing than sneak and show. That's how they try and get under it, and then it eventually devolves back to this, which is the fair metagame. And I wonder which one of them is going to crop up in Leo.
It's a big question for me. I have 2 kind of main configurations that I want to go with in the main deck. You know, a lot of times you want to go with kind of your core of your 4 swords, your 4 terminus, and then maybe 0 or 1 of the Council's Judgment. Whereas now my build, I'm actually cutting a swords and a terminus. I'm going to play 1 Council's Judgment, and then I'm playing 2 Pyroblast with 3 Snapcaster Mage. So I'm going very much for the control, the Omni Show kind of Miracles.
That's right.
Metagame, and when you're gunning for that gives you a big edge. You know, you see a lot of your cards, especially in the mirror. You see a lot of your deck. And both players kind of have all this dead draws of all these removal in their hand, and it's kind of if you draw maybe 2-3 extra spells, an extra Snapcaster and an extra Pyroblast could make all the difference. So that's probably how I'm going to build my deck. But I think I'll play the trials and stuff on Friday and see what the meta looks like.
Also, really interestingly, is Dredge popping up. It always pops up, I think, like once every 2-3 months in just a top 8, and then just disappears. Now, I don't know if that's indicative of how much people like the deck or the hate out it gets, because there's a lot of talk about Dredge always pops up in Legacy talk because it's so strong. Whenever it just gets to do what it likes, it's ridiculously strong.
It's the most consistent turn 1 win deck, I would say.
Yeah.
More than Charbelcher?
No, I'd say, it's not. No, I'd say Charbelcher, you've got Charbelcher, Oops All Spells, and you have what do you call it, Tin Fins. are the 3 main turn 1 decks designed to go off on turn 1. And most of them can't beat a single Force of Will, which is the reason why we don't see them.
That's what I mean by consistent.
Yeah.
That's why I think Dredge is more consistent, because it can easily survive through a Force.
A lot of times it doesn't even cast cards.
Yeah,
you just discard the hand size and then you go nuts and you just never play one spell. The control player, the player's left with a Force of Will hand going, what happened?
Why is there 6 things on the field?
I counter 1 Dredge a turn and they still have 5 zombies. And I'm not a combo deck myself, so I'm going to lose to 5 zombies.
You're just waiting for Cabal Therapy to strip it away anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were actually talking as well there to me before, Byrne, about the 2 different Dredge decks and the difference. One was a manaless Dredge and one wasn't, right?
Yeah. 2
What do you
Dredge
think?
decks have popped up in the last few tournaments. I've never been a fan of the manaless one, to be honest. Just seems
too loose.
It's too fragile. Yeah,
Sure.
like even if you choose to go in the draw, and if they have a Thoughtseize or something, they take whatever useless card that doesn't say Dredge on it and isn't Phantasmagorian. And basically, you have to spend another turn waiting to discard a card to get your engine going. It just
you can't mulligan.
Not a
you
fan.
cannot mulligan with the deck.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't cast a single spell in your deck.
Yeah.
So your sideboard is full of 15 free cards.
Well, you have
or
probe or something.
well, yeah, okay, sure, but yeah, your board is
Yeah.
full of like ley lines and all other
Yeah,
rubbish that you
it's-
can't cast. It's
Even Leyline, you have to put on the table from your opening hand,
Yeah.
so that messes up your game plan.
absolutely,
So,
exactly, yeah. It's I think the deck is garbage as
No.
well. But you were saying that
Real
you thought
Dredge.
Will should play Dredge in Lille.
Dredge has been dormant for a long time. I think the time is coming where it's just the right tournament for it. With
think
the
so.
IQ last week, Dredge hitting top 8, maybe not now, but I don't know.
It's surprisingly difficult to pilot, is one thing I would say.
Yeah.
You can goldfish to learn it,
Yeah,
but it's like I was saying with Miracles, when I played it a very long time ago now, and someone gave it to me for a legacy tournament, like, here, we have a spare Dredge deck, play it. And there's all these tiny interactions with cards, especially game 1 isn't too bad because most people know how to go off it on turn 2, and maybe they'll miss the turn 1 or whatever interactions, but
yeah.
they'll consistently go off turn 2 or 3 with it, and there's not much the opponent can do.
But playing with
In-
hate is a big thing, I think, with this deck
Yeah,
as well. You need to know.
interacting with hate cards is very hard.
Cabal Therapy, you need to know what to name. That's a big one as well.
Ravenous Trap was one of the hardest I found to hedge against because there is no correct answer. There's just slightly less wrong answers to that. Like, when do I stop? If I stop now and he doesn't have the trap, I've thrown away my turn 3 win through this hate card.
Yeah.
But if he does have the trap, I can't win if I go for it. And it's this balancing act. And it's all tiny interactions that make what seems like a really simple deck actually quite a difficult one to play, I think.
Well, if people are gunning for it, I think you're in bad shape anyway. But
for sure,
the secret to Dredge is you get it when people aren't gunning for it, I think.
Yeah.
Really.
If Deadwood Shaman as well is a big place in the format, it kind of, the amount of sideboard hate is kind of incidental in a way, because if everyone is playing Deadwood Shaman, it's just it's a horrible matchup anyway. If they go turn 1 Deadwood Shaman, what do? You discard like one Dredger, then they take it with the thing, and you've no game plan,
Against normal Dredge, like not manaless Dredge, I think Deathrite, he doesn't do enough. He's
Doesn't
like
enough.
exiles
He's a bit
one card
slow,
a turn, like, but Dredge
If you
can
get your
just
one guy,
break
like-
through all Dredge 20 cards.
Yeah, true,
like,
true.
what's a Deathrite going to do?
Yeah,
like?
yeah.
Yeah, he's a tad slow for
Yeah.
average Dredge, but against manaless Dredge, they are counting on 1 or 2 cards to go off.
Yeah, that's true.
So on that thought, I want to go around the table and ask, if you were going to GP Lille, and I know you are, what deck are you going to bring, Dave? What's your if you had to choose?
Choose. If I was going this weekend, I think I would play Death and Taxes. It has enough game against Delver and Miracles decks, which are being a bit prominent, that you could that I think it's justified in the meta game at the moment. I love Miracles. I love Joe Lorsette's build with the Caracas and all the creatures.
Yeah.
I really like that build, but I don't know if I'd be proficient. Even if I have such a huge edge in the mirror, I don't know if I'm proficient enough at playing it. And one of the things that got me in standard with the deck a lot, and I know it's very simple, is I draw too fast for my turn.
Sure.
And the minute it touches your hand, there's no black on white. There's no grey area, so it's black and white. The minute the edge touches the edge of another card, that is now your hand, and that's big. You can't win games where that happens. So it's,
Absolutely. Byrne, what would you take?
I'd play Elves.
Play Elves.
I love Elves. It's an amazing deck. It can grind out wins against everything almost. Like it hasn't got too many like really shocking matches.
Except for Miracles, unfortunately. Miracles is almost the one deck that it struggles
what did you go
against.
like 8-1 against me?
Something like that when we were playing it. Miracles is a bad matchup for it. That's the reason it's not really around. Yeah, everything you have is kind of just good against them. You've got the Your removal's great, obviously. Your Terminus is
Yeah.
backbreaking against them. Even your Force of Wills and your counter spells are good because they can counter the key spells like
Yeah.
They don't have a way
the
out of
natural
combo
order.
either.
No, they don't have really a way out of the combo. Maybe a Crozen Grip or whatever on the board,
Well,
but your
Abrupt
counterbalance.
Decay is in every
Okay,
other
sure,
board,
they have
like,
Abrupt
yeah,
Decay,
yeah, yeah.
but you know
But-
everything in the deck is good against
Yeah.
it, which is kind of
This is fair.
Or
Yeah.
some of the grindy cards you were saying as well
Yeah,
about.
they can play a fair value game as well. Like,
They
Yeah.
can, yeah,
and
very
people are cutting down on treats now, which is the biggest worry when you're playing the value game against
Yeah.
the
yeah,
the
because they
miracle
just
set.
finish out of nowhere.
Yeah. So like you can like easily Wirewood Symbiote Elvish Visionary your game against
El-
it.
Elvish
I don't think
Visionary
it's
is still
your-
the scariest card.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
like-
Force
And
will
it's-
that thing. No way it's not resolving.
And it's
Not a
back.
chance.
Yes, it's back in Origins. That's going to be really funny. Quick aside, actually, I'm really I was laughing as well. It's definitely turning up in the new player boxes, and all the cards in the new player boxes are legal in standard constructed. But what's really funny is if the card's not actually in Magic Origins packs, I'm wondering will there be a spike on the price when people have to buy them online because they can't depend on getting like 4 of those boxes to get Visionaries, because people mightn't just have them in their thing. I just think it'd be really funny.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I don't think so.
There's
It's
probably a
come from
few in
before.
circulation.
Yeah, probably.
It's printed multiple times.
sure. But if it's just the best deck in standard, no one wants for it. Anyway,
But
Dan,
yeah, no. Sorry, just as
Yeah.
just to finish off what Burn was saying there about elves. While I think that its miracle matchup is horrendous, and maybe some of the very fast combo decks are also very bad. The likes of your Chow Bouncer and stuff.
Yeah.
Most of what's in the middle is actually very good.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
destroys
for sure.
Delver decks.
Death
It
and
destroys
Taxes.
Death and Taxes.
Yeah.
It destroys all of those decks. Like if a deck is trying to play a few creatures and a bit of disruption and a bit of this and a bit of that, it just gets completely
That
run
taxes
over by elves.
needs like a turn 2 Jet AT.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
even then, there's
yeah.
tricks to get around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Yeah. So if that's what the metagame is going to be, elves is actually a very good choice. But for me, I think miracles is just too popular at the moment that for me to want to play elves.
Yeah.
And of course, my choice for the tournament will be miracles. If I was sitting down right now, as a friend of ours, Niels Mola, was doing, he's chasing points for the captaincy. So he's basically saying, okay, I'm going to go to go and play in GP Lille. I need a deck. I don't really know how to play any deck well, so I'm kind of starting at base 1. Give me a deck, and I told him Omnitel, I believe, is probably the best choice for him. Anyway, it's a type of deck where you can just go fish a whole load for like a week. He only literally decided last week he was going to go. So he's just been goal fishing this thing loads,
Yeah.
and I think it's just got a very proactive game plan with a bit of disruption and a kind of a bit of protection for its own combo. You know, it's the type of deck where you can go and just avoid a couple bad matchups maybe, and you can just kind of wreck people. I think it's a very powerful deck, and I think Dig Through Time has made this deck almost the best deck in the format. I think that we've yet to see the power level of this deck. I think that this deck can still rise to the top and become a completely dominant force. I think maybe just enough people aren't actually playing with this deck yet.
Sure.
Maybe that's why we're not seeing it put up the numbers. So
Also, surprisingly easy to play.
yeah.
It's just all the blue cantrips. Do I have enough counterspell? You literally just need to be a competent enough player to imagine what your opponent has in his hand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's the worst that can happen if I go off this turn? Oh, we could have 2 forces.
Yeah.
I'll wait a turn.
Combat
Draw,
map,
draw,
stuff
draw,
like
draw,
that as
draw.
well. Just kind of being aware of, okay, I can probably afford another 4 points from that Tarmogoyf here, and then I can,
I saw that deck tear apart Delver. We were doing on coverage here, Craig against Adam.
Yeah.
On coverage, and Craig had good hands. He had pressure and he had a force of will, but
Yeah.
Craig needs pressure, so his whole hand can't be counter spells.
Yeah.
He needs a certain amount of pressure.
Absolutely.
Adam's whole hand can be counter spells in the combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just.
You need the Delver, you need the Tarmogoyf, you need the Mongoose,
Yeah.
you need something on
And,
the
and
first
usually
one.
one Delver isn't enough. Like
Yeah.
so, Adam just went off and he just waited a turn or two, did his combat mats. Oh, I have 2 force of wills, and you have to tap out this turn. Get you, game's
Yeah.
over.
it's really funny because my roommate Adam playing on Blue Omnitel. He had this deck for a while, and he was going to be giving it to one of his mates, and I goldfished it a few times, and this was back when he played for Enter the Infinites.
Yeah.
And I would open up this hand that had like show and tell, 2 copies of Enter the Infinite, and some cantrips, and I'm like, this deck is garbage.
Yeah. It also
This is
played the what was it, the Dream Halls as well.
Yeah,
All the free stuff.
And I was
Yeah.
like, this deck is awful. Why
Yeah,
would
it
anyone
wasn't
play
good.
this? I'm going to lose in 3 turns, and I'll have like cantripped a few times.
Yeah.
It's
But then he looked up, it was a recent, like it was a Japanese tournament that was just like,
Of course.
yeah, they cut down to 1 Enter the Infinite, and now it's cut them all. And I was
Yeah.
like,
No,
this
Shoni
deck is
Soka
so
was
much
top
better.
8 at that tournament. He kind of revolutionised the deck. I think he built it, or he was involved in building it, and he made top 8 with another guy. And yeah, you just cut all the crap crap out of it. Cut all that fluff out. You just play around 400 cantrips, 1 mana spells, and you just play 4 dig through times. And what happens is then dig through time is actually it's a combo piece, and it's kind of a win condition. You don't have to play this kind of bulky enter the infinite card that does nothing unless you're going off. Now you play cantrip 100 times, and you go, all of a sudden I've got a dig through time, and it helps find the combo. And then when you actually show and tell out the omniscience, you use your dig through time to find the rest of the combo.
Yeah.
So.
It's actually
It's funny, it reminds me a bit of Bloom, where this deck has been around for a couple of years actually.
Yeah.
And it was like you saw casual players play it. No offense, and you saw guys that want to do like off the wall kind of stuff. Exactly. Yeah. People who didn't come to tournaments to play regular or very competitively. They just wanted to play cool things. And Bloom was the same. Bloom used to have Coiling Oracle in it and crap, just other garbage cards to facilitate it. And then this really competitive player gets their hand on it and goes, how do I make this go off on turn 2 consistently?
Yeah.
And that's what happened with these two decks, and they have very similar trajectory. So what was you said? Shouto was the first one.
Yeah, Shouto.
Shouto, obviously, his group of players took it and went, okay, could we not just have 1 million cantrips in it? There's 1 million in the format.
Yeah, play 4 Force Well, 4 Spell Pierce, and then everything else is just cantrips.
And Titan Bloom's the same. It's literally 2 cantrips, Ancient Stirrings and Serum Visions. Why isn't it playing both of these? Boom, that's super consistent.
What I found really funny as well about the dig through time is a lot of the time they can be waylaid in your hand in other decks where you're trying to play all of these trading cards like kill spells and things like that to fill up your graveyard, but it's like you don't care, you're just plowing through your whole library using these cantrips, that fills up your graveyard, you plow more with dig through time. It was insane.
Random fetches just to get
fetches of
that was kind of what we saw as well with the Treasure Cruise format. When Treasure Cruise got spoiled and it started coming into Legacy, the blue-red deck basically went, okay, right, I need to get rid of all of these stifles, these, I can't remember exactly, maybe some dazes, like it cut quite a lot of the reactive cards, and it basically just went, I'm going to play lightning bolts, I'm going to play fork bolts, I'm going to play chain lightnings, I'm going to play more cantrips, and I'm just going to play 1 million things that just fill up my graveyard on my terms. I'm not going to sit here holding up mana waiting to spell pierce your spell. I'm just going to go spell, reload with Treasure Cruise, and then just play like the Young Pyromancer and the other guy, and that's kind of what that same idea you're saying there. You're doing it on your own terms.
So are there many Irish going to this, by the way, guys? I know you and Niels are planning.
Myself, Niels, Evan was going,
Mark
Pickett is going, Suzanne is going, yes, and then a whole lot of guys from the north as well. Adam Stewart is going, Adam Mann, I'm pretty sure his wife is going as well. They also have Simon Carmichael and a few other judges.
It's always nice to see a big Irish contingent going to these events.
It's really lovely.
Yeah, London coming up in a few months, and probably a big showing going to be at that as well.
Lindsay is Adam's wife. I couldn't. If you're listening, Lindsay, I'm sorry. I got there eventually.
So there's actually a few other decks in the format that we might be looking at. Burn is always a shout. Not you, Burn. I'm sorry.
Burn, you rarely shout. Burn is always shouting in my ear.
It hurts me every time I bring up Burn. I'm like, you should be playing Burn in every format. It's so unfortunate. There's no deck called Eamon in every format.
I'd never stop playing.
Yeah, I would play that every single time.
Force Eamon.
They're just like, what deck you playing? I'd show them my hand. I'm like, I'm playing the Eamon deck, obviously. Idiot.
Yeah. He's got a point.
Yeah, but Burn as well is always a deck that pops up in Legacy and Modern a lot. What's on it in Legacy right now? Just
Burn, what do you think?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Burn, it's always there, but unlike me, it's not the greatest
maybe.
thing ever, unfortunately. It's kind of like a 7-card combo deck. Like, you get 7 spells, you hope to win.
Yeah.
But
It won last week,
last week. It is a real deck. I mean, it's not a terrible deck.
It's just personal preference.
And it's a metagame deck. It's something that if people are playing Reanimator and turn 1 combos, you can't possibly win.
Yeah, sure.
You play this deck where if you sit down across from your opponent, you have like 95 to 5% matchups where just sometimes you cannot win.
Yeah.
And
the problem,
sweet.
the problem I have with Burn, not you, Burn.
It's not going to be recurrent.
That's it.
The problem I have with it is it's a bit like Elves, where if the format is unfair, it's a bit hostile. Elves can't get in. It doesn't really have any great way of interacting with turn 1 combos. It can dedicate sideboard slots, but that's not great. Then you're just playing the lotto. But in fair metagames, Elves can be pretty dominant. So if everyone's fair, has trouble. Miracles is one of the other fair decks, but besides that, it probably has nearly good matchups everywhere else that I can think of. Where Burn, fills a really similar role, except it doesn't have a good matchup against all the fair decks. And like the fair decks that has good matchups against, still randomly lose to them having very good hands. Now there's lots of very long stalled out decks like Deathblade that it probably beats, but even then sometimes there's like turn 2 Stoneforge, turn 3 Batterskull, counter one of your things, hit you. Yeah, okay, I win.
That was
Yeah,
it. That was exactly how that matchup went when I used to play it. It was just you usually wait until turn 3 until you had like a Spell Pierce or a Flusterstorm or something to protect the Stoneforge. Hope you have a Force of Will as well because they obviously have to point everything at him.
Yeah.
And then then they can sometimes just go like they have a couple things and you just thought die.
You can
anyway,
still
so,
die. There's still now multiple cards that say you can't gain life a turn.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's not as consistent as something like Elves, where Elves would have 90% matchups against some fair decks unless they have very dedicated.
Yeah.
Not, again, 90's a misdemeanor. You don't really have that magic, but very high percent matchups where Burn still just randomly loses. It loses to other
I
aggressive
actually agree.
decks.
It does feel a lot like Elves actually in the metagame where it's got the same sort of bad matchups, but it doesn't have as many good matchups. I think
exactly.
I actually agree with
It's
that.
the same, even get decks that are tier 3 that I would consider below Burn, like Goblins. Is a deck we haven't seen forever in years, bringing it up because of the recent.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But that hasn't seen play in years, and I think it's the exact same as Burn. Can't beat unfair decks, can't beat some fair decks, has okay matchups other places, and that's where Burn falls. And people buy it, and they have the modern one, and they just update dual lands, but it's just I don't like it very much.
True name sealed the coffin on Goblins, I think, really.
Kind of.
As well, yeah.
Also, just a quick one as well, which I think always has a shout. I think it's just very similar to Dredge, but maybe has less head cards against it. Is Ant Ad Nauseam Tendrils,
For sure.
the Storm deck of Legacy.
We probably see quite a bit of this actually in Leo. The European metagames, there tends to be quite a lot of Storm. And it's a real deck. It can come and just win a tournament, especially if it's there's not a lot of people packing hate for it. Like
Or
generally
death and
you
taxes,
do.
really.
The thing about it is, death and taxes can be a problem with Talia, but the problem with Storm is you're so unlikely for people to just forget the hate because there's so much incidental hate for a deck like Storm. People are just playing Force of Wills all over the place. People play their Fluster Storms in their sideboard because they're good against like Delver decks and they're good against like Miracles and stuff. They're just like Spell Pierce style effects. Anything that's out there that's just a counter spell. Red Elemental Blast are good against your Pounders and your Brainstorms. So you just have all this incidental hate that's not dedicated Storm hate. It's not either Sworn Canonist, but it's just incidental hate and it makes life actually quite difficult.
If you have a counterbalance out and a top on top, you're like you're never going off.
In fact, I would say that this incidental hate is sometimes better than dedicated hate because some people assume that either Sworn Canonist is very good against them. But I saw a streamer who's very good with the deck recently play, and anytime someone played that, he scoffed. He's like, "It's nothing. I have Rebuke Decays. When I go off, I'll go off. This guy is not going to stop me from doing anything." Where people that forgot their ant hate. So they're like, bollocks, I'll bring in all my Fluster Storms and all my counters. Actually end up doing a lot better because these are kind of more reactive cards opposed to it's a bit like ley lines against Scape Shift. We see that a lot in serious business coverage. And people slam them and think they're really safe. Like, I'll just wait command and you're dead. Like it actually didn't have an impact on this game.
And the problem, actually, one of the other issues as well with the Storm deck, and it's always going to be an issue, is it has a fairly bad Delver matchup. So you just people are just going to be playing Delver all over the place, and kind of the faster Delver, the better. Not the kind of slow controlling ones. Your Rogue Delver, for example, they just play this really fast clock. They play Wastelands for your lands. They play Stifles for your fetches, Dazes, Forces, all sorts of stuff in the main deck, and your mana is bad. So
So given all of that, do we think that Legacy is a healthy enough format? I think we were all thinking about maybe Omni Show getting something banned from it, maybe when we all thought it was like when it really burst out of the gates in the last month or two, and we thought it was maybe the strongest deck in Legacy. Is that we think is maybe ban worthy? Dave, I know you mentioned a card.
I'm always a fan of trying to do the Delver thing. It's the same argument for Green Sun Zenith and Modern. It's in nearly every blue fair deck. There's this whole box now called Delver, and 7 or 8 different decks fit into it. And it's not that the card's oppressive, like it's a fair enough Magic card in Legacy. In Legacy. But I just think it would be nice to see what people do once it's gone. Maybe it's unhealthy, and then these decks don't have the pressure to pressure combo decks. but I think it would be very interesting at the very least to see how that develops.
Okay.
I agree with that to a certain
Yeah.
extent. Yeah.
Maybe any unbannings, or do we think that that's fine?
That's always so difficult.
Yeah, or there's something like Black Vise or whatever could potentially come off. Like Black Vise is not a overly powerful card,
Yeah.
but
Wouldn't
you know,
have much of an
people
effect,
hated.
you know.
Yeah, people hated it from before, and there's this kind of bad vibe with it. So that type of card.
What was the last one
potentially come
banning? World Gorger Dragon got unbanned.
off. World
Order
Order Dragon
Then
was
nothing
unbanned,
ever
and
happened.
zero happened.
They're just
Nothing
like
happened at
Grizzle
all.
Brand just gets animated now. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like we already have Infinite Combat reanimated.
Yeah, I feel like you could unban the X discard spell. What do you
Mind
call it?
Twister.
Mind Twister.
Mind
I
Twister
feel like
is
you
such
could
a
unban
bad-
Mind
I don't
Twister.
know.
Is that random as well?
Yeah,
it's
random
random.
discard. That's kind of insane.
Okay, turn one, I'm just going to go, ramp, and instead of killing you, I'm just going to make you discard
Well,
some
it's-
cards.
it's
And then we
not-
both don't have a hand,
I think
and
it's
then
just a
what?
bad feeling card, maybe more so.
It's
Yeah.
probably the same idea of a bad feeling style. Like, it's not the safest thing in the world. It could be horrible, and people
Yeah.
could hate it, but I feel like it would be one of them cards where people panic, and then no one plays it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
hey, what do you do with this card? You wait
Well-
to turn 4, and you make them discard 3 cards.
Yeah, I suppose.
That feels like the best thing you can do with the card, but...
It's just out of stuff like we saw that Sultai Delver. It took down one of the IQs, didn't it?
Yeah, that was the.
I just think
yeah.
maybe in that deck, that style deck, it might be a bit too good, especially like
They don't play a lot of mana.
they don't.
These,
but
these
like,
decks don't play a lot of
you
mana.
They
They-
have Deathrite there, like for a little bit more mana.
Yeah, I mean, they generally function off
I-
about
I-
3 mana,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
4 mana.
Then
Like,
it's a 3 mana.
yeah, then it's like on turn 3, it's a 3 mana him.
But they
4 mana
now they
him.
get to play technically 8. They probably cut on hymns if they played this, but technically 8 hymns. And you were saying the worst they can do is X's 3. I think that's pretty backbreaking in Legacy though.
But that's on
X's
turn
3.
4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
turn 4.
That's like saying
Or
play
turn 3
Jason.
maybe.
3 cards.
It could be one. It could be on turn 3, and 2 with the Sultai Delvers. Maybe not the current builds, but I know the older builds. You do grind out games, and you both end up with a couple of cards, and
Yeah.
you're waiting to react, and all of a sudden you go, discard 3. You have to force a will this now. Oh, okay, I have to force this. Okay, resolve my threat that you didn't want me to resolve.
Yeah.
Okay, try and counter that as well. I'll
To
force
a
that
certain
'cause I didn't
extent,
get
yeah.
it.
To a certain extent,
Yeah,
those type of situations will happen. But that sounds more like every now and then.
Yeah, but
more so than a
it's
rule.
definitely probably high up the list of
Yeah.
unbannables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that sounds good. We actually have a GPT, Legacy GPT coming up next weekend, or is it this weekend? This weekend coming?
There was
No,
GPT.
GPT London is on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
on.
That's standard.
We did
Oh,
Legacy
is it
GPT a
standard?
couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
here.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, we did the coverage for that.
Yeah.
But just coming up, we actually have a pretty decent legacy community here in Ireland. It's
How many
pretty
did we
good.
get for the GPT
It's
again
growing,
now?
which is amazing.
GPT was
It's like 20, wasn't it?
21 or something like
Yeah.
that. Or some
Well,
crazy amount for
See,
GPT.
what I like about it, I know people are asking for it to be played more, but I kind of like that it's a special format.
Yeah.
That like once a month it comes out. I think if it was played more, the community wouldn't be as good because then people are like, oh, I'll catch the next one. I'll catch the
Yeah,
next
possibly.
one. Now that's once a month or every 2
A
months,
lot of
people are like,
come.
Jesus, on the calendar, let's go play some
Yeah,
Legacy.
yeah,
You know?
That's sure, right.
Mark it down.
But yeah, we're also talking as well, Dave, you recently went to the RPTQ over in England.
Sunny Huddersfield.
Yeah, your favourite place in the world now.
The-
Rainy Huddersfield
the
on a
most-
Tuesday evening.
This is not a magic story exactly, but the most competitive town in England. I haven't done the research, but there was the town you could walk in 10 minutes back and forth. The hotel room was 5 minutes away from everything in the centre of the town. There was 2 of everything. So there was a pound world, and you turned to the right, and there was a pound city. And this happened all. There was kebab shops. There was shopping chains that were all really similar opposite each other. And I get it's an economic thing. It's like you want stuff in areas, and sometimes that benefits both shops. But we joked, and I went to Witherspoons for the first time because nice cheap drinks and whatever. And we joked like, "Where's the second Witherspoons?" Blah blah blah. It's not there. And on the last night, we went walking just to see what the nightlife was like. And right at the end of the road with all the
Another
drink,
Witherspoons.
was another Witherspoons. And we were like, "Oh my god, this place must have a population of 100." And there's 2 Witherspoons, and one of them was old man Witherspoons, which he hung out in the whole weekend. And the second one was young hip person.
Jesus. But you played the recent RPTQ.
Yeah.
He wasn't as
managed to
competitive in the tournament as it was in the Wetherspoons
It reminds me
industry.
very. I travelled to a couple of English ones, and they're on a very similar level with less players.
Yeah.
I thought this would mean these were a bit more competitive, and maybe I didn't see it because I wasn't having the best time. I didn't do very well, but the average player seemed about the average player of PTQs.
Yeah.
There was slightly less chaff, but one of the players at least that I beat was Chaff. No offense to him if he is somehow listening to this. He was
You
not.
didn't say which player, so it's fine.
He was not a good player. He did not play well. He didn't know how limited worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
But besides that, average level of players. The experience is kind of weird because I did used to travel to English PTQs. I've travelled to 3 or 4, I think, in my time, and people have compared this to like, oh, you did that anyway, Dave, so you're gonna be fine with the system. But what I found is now that the option to go to Irish ones is taken away from me, I did not enjoy this at all. I felt like there was a lot more pressure. People say there's less pressure because you get to play PPTQs and then go to a bigger event, but there's more pressure because I've had to qualify for this, and I won't necessarily qualify for the second one on my first try like I did this one, and I'll have to travel again, and this is a whole thing, and I can wholeheartedly say I won't be attending another one of these anytime.
It's not something I'm interested in.
Particularly in Huddersfield or in
I give it a bit of stick. It was
Bad
a
point in Wethersfield, isn't it?
it was a fine town, just very very boring, where I could have gone to a GP. For similar prices. And Irish TOs are trying to make it competitive. They're throwing money at it. But me and Dan were two of the more competitive players. If you look at a year or two back, traveling around, Dan would go to GPs, I'd go to PTQs, I'd go to GPs when I get a chance. And neither of us want a thing to do with this system.
Yeah.
I think it's a very telltale sign that I will no longer attend PTQs.
Yeah.
And there was times where I didn't miss one in 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My feeling on it was as well, like I've only gone into competitive Magic in say in the last year and a half, and like definitely I could see myself doing well in PTQs. I never quite made the top 8. I've come close a few times. But now that I'd have to win a PPTQ and get as well, it just feels like it's why bother, kind of, like, I mean, there's no reason, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way as well.
There's no one for you to look up to, and I know that makes you sound like a child or something, but it is true. When everyone starts, you're
it's
like,
fine, I'm taller than you.
when everyone starts to like, look, he just went to the PTQ, he almost made PT, he almost made day 2. And I know that's not actually a big thing. When you play more competitive Magic, you get that isn't a big thing. People go to Pro Tours, but when you're young, especially me, I think I'm the poster boy for this story. You clinged on to something where you can go in your home country to these mega, in your mind, competitive events where you can earn your right to play at a higher level.
Yeah.
There's no longer an event, no matter how hard people are trying to make it a thing here, that compares to that anymore. And I'm really fearful for the next generation of competitive players in this country, because I don't think there is going to be a next generation of competitive players in this country. I think it's gone. I think people,
because of the switch in the system.
Yeah, even people like Dan, I'm going to attempt to go to GPs. It's just so much effort. It's so not only financially, because you can talk about it being a hobby and back and forth that all day. It's so emotionally draining to have to travel to these competitive events to lose, where you could take some of that out, because some amount of them were seeing friends at home and getting knocked out of a home one and going home and coming back out when you're feeling a bit better for a few drinks. That's gone, and I don't know what people are supposed to aim for anymore.
I feel like they're going to have to revert in this. I don't think this is a long-term solution.
This isn't us. Like people, this isn't only us. People all over the world.
Brazil is a big problem
absolutely.
as well, apparently.
There's Hawaii. Very notably, Josh Sylvester's article had multiple Hawaiians going, because we're not on the mainland.
Traveling is so much more difficult.
Traveling is more difficult for us, and our community is no longer competitive. And I thought this would take years. I thought I was going to be a moaner, and then 5 years I get to go, I told you so. But it's not.
No, you get to do it sooner.
It's having a very immediate effect on these. You can see it in the local shops. You can see it at these big events. It's just
absolutely.
But anyway, we'll move from that slight downer and hopefully that changes. Wizards is very receptive to this kind of thing, and I do think they want to keep on players, especially in smaller markets. So maybe we'll change, or maybe they'll diversify between groups. But
just need to bitch and nothing more.
Absolutely, send more letters. We want you to do that. But we're going to move on to what is, I feel, one of the best spoiler seasons we've had. This set looks spicy as hell, right? I mean, I'm not the only one
in here, definitely.
This, like, every single rare that, not every single one, but most rares pop up, it's either like, this is stone cold playable, or maybe there's a deck in this, which I think is pretty amazing. So we're actually going to go down through the list of ones that I just popped up, going in backwards chronological order, starting from the nearest one that just came out today, Evolutionary Leap. This one I thought it was an aura originally when Dave shouted out to me. It's a 1 green enchantment.
One and a green.
One and a green. Yeah. Sorry, because then it'd be bananas. And you pay 1 green.
You're just incapable of calling the mana cost of cards out, aren't you? I had to bring this up with you last week.
Because when it's left aligned, I read out the name from left to right, but when it's right aligned, I just do it from right to left. It's weird. So it's enchantment. You pay 1 green, sacrifice a creature.
1 and a green, or just a single green?
Just a green. 1 green. I didn't say 1 and a green.
I know. Go on.
So sacrifice a creature, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, this card is really good. To me, I'm just like, it's obviously not great in multiples, but in any sort of grindy matchup, if you put this in anything where you get to, like, they're like, oh, kill your guy, and you're like, sack it in response, go replace it. That's really good, right? I mean, like,
that Raptor jumps to mind immediately.
Yeah.
Like, it's already Raptor's already pretty dominant and standard at the moment. He's in multiple decks, and now being able to I have a Den Protector face down, sack, put a new card in my hand. That misses in my graveyard, flip the Den Protector, get this card back. Den Protector, that miss comes back. It's super grindy. I don't think it's dominant because usually super grindy isn't dominant. It's not being very efficient, but this will be other mid-range decks. This will be control decks probably. I don't see how a control deck beats this on turn 2.
It gets more value on top of the value already in your deck.
Exactly.
What I was even thinking as well, if there's some green spells that come out, or maybe green and whatever other colour you're playing in your deck that makes a bunch of tokens. And you can you're like, swing in with all of my tokens, I'll show you're blocking here, pay a green, go find another thing, and I've not lost anything, I've just gained value. I think that could be really
polymorph style.
Absolutely.
It's just
with a lot of tokens,
it's in the hand.
Well, it's in the hand,
But
but
you can't Emrakul, unfortunately.
No.
That would be pretty broken.
This just in, we have a new card. It's an artifact creature. It's XX, so you can't give out to me the way I say this one.
You're fine with that.
It is an XX. When it enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. It's a 0/0, and when it dies, put 1/1 colorless top tier artifact creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield for each 1/1 counter that was on the walker. And you can pay 1, tap it, put a 1/1 counter on it. This is actually rare, which I'm not feeling.
No.
I don't think that's that bad.
It's not terrible.
4 mana for a 2/2 that makes 2 1/1 flyers.
I would say probably
It's
2 mana
alright.
for a 1/1 most likely.
Yeah.
He seems like something that you want to play on turn 2 as a 1/1, and then you just spend a couple
But then he's
turns
a
putting
1
few
power
counters.
beater that they just ignore.
It's funny, you just put counters on it for like 3 turns. It doesn't seem great,
But it seems okay. Maybe there's an artifact deck they're kind of pushing that as well.
Yeah.
We have another an uncommon that's come out.
it's don't bother with
one-
that. I wouldn't even bother reading it. I read faster than you. I wouldn't bother.
I was
reading
talking about another card, but it's to make that claim of you read faster. So it's 1 black.
No, I'm talking about this card. I've already read the whole thing.
Yeah, I know, but I was talking about another card. I wasn't even reading this.
All right.
So it's
I
1
wouldn't
black and
recommend
4
it.
colorless. It's a sorcery. Put out creature card from the graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And if you have spell mastery, which is having 2 instants or sorceries in your graveyard, the creature enters with a +1/+1 counter. And this is kind of the level of the comeback spells. Cost 5 mana, just
they
a
got
bit too much.
They've got a bit squeamish on Zombifies in the last couple of years, and this is
Since
just
the
another this is just another long line of not quite Zombify.
Yeah.
Unplayable.
So we'll move on with another one.
I just want to say about the evolutionary chain.
Evolutionary
leap. We've been looking for a sack outlet for Liliana, and this might be exactly. You get to go sack my Satyr Wayfinder,
Fine.
flip Liliana,
Get a 2/2.
-2. Get my get a 2/2 zombie. Get the top creature card. -2 my Liliana.
Bring
Get
it
back
back.
my Wayfinder. Mill again. Sack. Draw 2 more creatures. Cards go.
I've gone 12 for 13, like maybe 15 cards through my deck.
This is the definition. I make jokes all the time. This is literally the definition of the rock.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday,
Yeah.
pay a green mana and sack a squirrel to give something -1/-1 in 2 games over.
And then you go island. You've gone 10 cards through your deck. You're like, Island Treasure Cruise, draw 3, and you're like,
yeah,
I've got 50 cards in my hand, and they're all relevant, and it's awesome.
people are going to make the comparison of this in survival, and it's nowhere near survival, but it does have some power level to it, I think.
Yeah. So the next one is one that's given some relationship to Icarid. It is Despoiler of Souls. It's black and a black. Despoiler of Souls cannot block. It's a 3/1, and black, exile 2 other creature cards from your graveyard, return Despoiler of Souls from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's kind of this aggressive creature, but can always come back. Just a
At
lot
instant speed as well.
at instant speed.
Like,
Absolutely.
like exile 2 other creatures
Yeah,
from your
sure.
grave.
Exile,
Two is a lot.
Exile 2 is a lot. It's there's been a lot of creatures like this. What's the other one that saw standard play? Ashen Ghoul or something? There's 2.
People thought a Ravager, what was it?
Bloodghast.
Stitched. The Scab Ruinator
Scab
was one that's
Ruinator.
very
Oh,
similar.
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
forget you can bring that
There-
back
there-
from the graveyard, and people thought that was insane, and it just
There's
never
a long
saw it.
line of cards like this that I've seen play, and usually to see play, they have to be free or very cheap. 2 black might be a bit too much to be paying for him. The other card I was thinking of was Nether Spirit.
Nether Spirit,
Was
yeah.
if he's the only.
If he's the top creature, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think if he's the only creature,
Is
but
it?
he doesn't count copies
No,
himself.
if he's a top creature.
If he's
the
Because
top,
that's
yeah,
how it combos with Igorits and stuff like that as well. He has to be in last.
I'm even thinking of something. There used to be an old one that if he's the only creature, in the
Yeah,
graveyard,
I
you
know.
could play it black to bring him back, and he was just
Okay.
a 2.
Yeah. There is another guy who does
Yeah,
that.
but
Yes.
all the nether cycle, and they're always very close to being playable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
things have to go right.
It might be they're trying to make it kind of a not as good. They might be trying to make Dredge kind of work in modern, but he's probably still not.
He
gonna
is a
work.
I think it's a mono black aggro card more than
Yeah,
a dredge
that's what I
card.
was gonna
Like,
say, yeah.
Just for
if,
the
if the
comparison,
shell is
basically.
there,
Yeah.
I think it's a good card. It's a 3-power 2-drop, and it comes back when you have nothing else to
Yeah.
cast late in the game. So
That's fair.
And the turn hold up 4 mana.
Yeah.
Do I have a
Yeah.
removal spell? Do I have
Yeah,
2 of
yeah.
these coming back?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So the next
Yeah.
one as well. Oh, sure.
the fear guy is still around as well, right? The devotion gift.
Oh,
fear
Locust
guys.
Marauder.
Yeah. Like puts
There-
you out
there-
end of
there's a
turn,
you-
untap, cast him, swing in for 8. Like it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, that's true.
Actually, do you know who's still around?
What?
Merchant.
Grey Merchant.
Sure as well.
Grey Merchant's still there. You go end of turn, put him out. Grey Merchant.
Is-
Have a foil one
Yeah.
there. Do you want it?
No. Anyway, so we'll
Give it
move
to you
on.
for €6.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have another one, Abbot of Curl Keep. This one I really dig. He's 1 red. He's 1 in a red.
One and a
One
red.
and
So
a red.
a red-
Yeah, okay.
so-
alright.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not a 1-drop.
No, he's not a one. Yeah.
1 in a red. He's a 2/1. He's a human monk with prowess, which is their new.
Not a goblin. Every time a red card
Yeah.
is spot now, I'm like,
He's
not
a
a
goblin.
goblin.
When it enters the battlefield, exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You may play that card. We've seen this effect before, but this is a card where I'm like, he's pretty good on turn 2, and he's really good on turn 7, and he's pretty good on turn 4. Like he's a card that I'm just never sad playing. You know what I mean? It's just
Prowess on a 2-drop is interesting.
Exactly.
Also, he's
Yeah,
Seeker for red. But there's a
Yeah,
lot of good
he's-
2-drops.
Yeah, like I mean, all right, you know, if you miss, for example, off that, like if you want to play him as your 2-drop, for example, because in a deck like that, you do want to play a true 2-drop usually. You know, he's not going to be your finisher in a control.
Well,
deck
you
or
say
something,
that
so-
deck.
No, I'm just saying in general, a deck that wants a 2/1 prowess
Sure.
generally wants it because they want to play 2-drops and 3-drops, and they want to kind of put some
Agreed.
pressure on.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a control finisher as this guy. So what I mean by that is, if he's your only 2-drop, you do want to play him out on turn 2. So say you play him on turn 2 and you get no other effect off it. Is it 2 mana 2/1 prowess? Is that is
Yeah.
that a good thing? Like
Sure.
how good is
The-
that? Like the lifelink off Secret Away, which Dave mentioned, was a huge deal.
Yeah.
The reason Secret Away saw play was because it had lifelink,
Yeah.
not because it was a 2 mana prowess guy.
No.
So you know.
Okay.
Also, the difference between 1 and 2 toughness is pretty big.
Yeah,
at times
I think
as
so.
well.
It is-
Like, I think so. We saw cards similar to this actually quite recently, where you had the morph guy that you flipped up for 1 and you got the
Irish
same
Shaman.
effect, and he saw no play whatsoever.
He's starting to see
Zero.
play.
Is he actually?
I would argue.
Okay,
I would
sorry.
argue that Irish Shaman is better than this card, and that's why I was a bit surprised by the printing. Irish Shaman has the ability; he can't be blocked by.
Yeah.
He has to be blocked by 2 guys.
He has
Yeah.
menace.
Yeah,
Now.
menace
Yeah.
is what.
Is that
we,
what menace is?
Yeah.
Is okay.
I
So-
thought he saw 0 play though.
No,
Apparently,
he
started
saw
super-
very little play. He was in like 1 deck, but the point of him is, I think if you're going to play that card, he's better. I get the point of this card. They're saying here's a 2-drop. When he's a 2-drop, his other text doesn't matter. He's a 2/1 prowess. But unlike Seeker, who was very weird and saw 3 of play a lot because you hated to draw him beyond turn 2. After turn 2, he was a very bad draw. In fact,
Yeah.
this guy's a fine drop on turn 3 or 5 or you could courser with him a lot on turn 3. If you don't have another drop, you can play him and hope to hit a land
Yeah.
because it's free. So I understand the design in him. I just don't know if it's strong enough to.
The next card as well, one I'm pretty excited about again, is Priest of the Bloodrite. He's a rare. He is black.
slick name.
Yeah.
Slick name. Priest of the Blood Ride. My
So
God, I don't want to play against that card at all.
So he's black, and 3 colorless. He's a human cleric When Priest of the Bloodrite enters the battlefield, put a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. And then he has... So that's awesome, right?
Sorry, what's his base stat? What
Two-
is
he's
he?
a
Oh, he's a
2/2.
2/2. And he makes a 5/5 flyer.
Yeah.
Christ.
And at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life.
Yeah.
So who
There
cares
had to be
about
something.
that?
I knew there had to be at least something.
But-
But probably gets worse, doesn't it?
No, that's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
It's
yeah.
just 7 power, and you lose 2 life if you don't block with him.
Yeah.
To,
Well,
You sack him to
You
the
can sack him, yeah,
you
yeah.
sack him to the evolutionary leap, yeah, and flip your Liliana, and
And
here
then
we
you-
go.
and then you
Flip another
go,
priest and you keep going.
and then you go whip him back, get another
you
5/5.
plus Liliana twice, and
Yeah.
then you minus and get him back
Yeah.
and start it again.
Yeah.
Like this is awesome, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like
He's
this
great.
with whip especially.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a real card.
Whipping him back is pretty backbreaking. Importantly, the it's the classic demon, the 5/5. There's a lot of 4/4 dragons in the format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's playing Stormbreath and Thunderbreak in their red decks, and he blocks them. He blocks them
It
efficiently.
blocks Rhino,
he,
blocks.
He
Rhino.
blocks Rhino. He blocks
Tasigur.
Wingmate Rock. He blocks Tasigur. He is one of the biggest bodies. And what's really funny, what I find really funny, is everyone is viewing his downside as a mega downside. And if you look at the threads where they're spoiled, I know not the bastion of knowledge and magic random threads on the internet, but like, oh, how do we kill him? Oh, he attracts well with this sack out there. Oh, we can kill him this way. He's also a 2/2.
He's a guy, yeah.
He's also a guy. Like,
Still a guy, yeah.
Turn him sideways. That's how you kill him. Make him block.
Bear's,
this guy.
Bear's Companion style card. Well, Bear's Companion was similar enough, wasn't he? But he made
He
a
made a
4/4 bear.
4/4,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and it was 3 colors. This is just 2
Strictly
colors.
better.
Also,
yeah.
if this gets played against you, you're going to vomit out.
Oh, you can't win the game. This
Yeah.
you can't possibly beat this.
Oh,
card.
I kill your demon. Okay, my 2/2 will also trade with your guy on board.
Yeah.
Plus, as well, sometimes you could actually maybe even thinking about a Mardu Demons deck where you go turn 4 Butcher into turn 5 him.
Yeah,
That seems
But-
pretty.
Butcher's already very good with Liliana. People are pointing out.
Yeah,
So you now have also a 5/5 flyer in
Yeah.
in those kind of decks.
yeah. So you got to go 4/5, 5/5, and then a tasty treat for Butcher to gain some life, or give vigilance. That
Like I mean, I generally feel that the bar is pretty high for 5-drops nowadays. Like
Yeah.
there's
And
a
this
lot
one-
of 5-drops being printed that look amazing and then just don't really do anything.
Yeah.
This could be one of them. It's hard to tell right now whether this actually ends up being a great thing. David said there. I think with the Heroes Downfall or something on the 4 on the you've got a 2/2 left behind. It's quite nice to have something else, but it is a 2/2 that kind of hurts you, and
Yeah.
There is parity in like you lose 2
Exactly.
if he hits.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
lose
Yeah,
32,
yeah.
So he could not see play, but this is pushing the power level of a 5-drop.
I think so.
that one's a good one. The next one is one people are really excited about. It's Scab Clan Berserker. It's red and 1 colorless. It is a 2/2 with Renown 1. Renown is the new mechanic we haven't talked about. It's whenever a creature with Renown deals combat damage, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and it becomes renowned.
If it wasn't renowned already,
Combat
you would
damage to a
counter.
player, right?
To a player,
Yeah.
yes. I actually thought
Important.
I thought it was just a green-white mechanic, but apparently it's just in red as well.
Hmm.
So it's whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, if Scab Clan Berserker is renowned, it deals 2 damage to that player. So, and it's got haste.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Oh, this thing is haste. Yeah.
So you get to go turn 3.
No, sorry, it has haste and renown, and it also has menace, does it not?
No.
No,
Oh.
I don't think.
No,
Oh,
it
when I
doesn't
saw it
have
get spoiled, it must have been translated incorrectly. When I saw that spoiled, it had menace as well.
Yeah, I've copied
He'd be
these
quite
correctly.
good with mana.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's a 2/2, and you get to swing in, becomes a 3/3, and then
Starts
yeah,
shocking them every time they play. isn't it?
absolutely. They're like the classic thing you're thinking about is it's good against control, but right now control just has things like Bile Blight and Ultimate Price and all of these
That's
things.
still fine though. If you ever get the hit with it,
Yeah.
you got to deal them 2, and now they have to take 2 to kill it. If you're looking at a deck, I know it might be a bit overkill, but if you go like Eidolon into
Yeah.
this, and
Mhm.
they're in a lot of trouble if it ever hits, and
Yeah.
the mana isn't good in the format like you are
Yeah.
playing a lot of top lands. This guy could get in on the play a lot.
I think haste makes the card as well.
Yeah,
if it didn't have
definitely.
haste,
It'd be awful, but
it'd
now
be
it might
terrible. But it's good now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is probably a card that's going to be very good in the play and probably quite bad in the draw. I
Good
think.
side it out in the draw.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
I have a feeling that that's going to be the case with this guy. It
he's
seems like if you don't hit with him, what does he do? Like if they have a 2/2, you don't want to trade with your 3-drop. If they've got
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
lying around, you don't want to trade. You can't attack. It's like
He is also double red, so it might fit into a mono red deck with what's the name of Mogus's
Fanatic.
fanatic.
Fanatic, yeah.
The mono red deck is always on the fringes. but
Nearly there.
Yeah.
Got that
Never
dragon
seems-
guy, the mythic
Dragon
rare
Whisperer
from the last thing.
is a very underplayed card because it doesn't have a shell.
Yeah.
But
red two drops or what's that? That's been missing.
yeah, there's two of them, but they're not. The problem, people thought that Frostburn Weird was only good because he was red, and
Yeah.
same with I had the argument that people keep trying to make mono blue, and they go, oh, there's a new 2-drop, which we'll read about one later. But the 1-drops were so important for
Yeah.
that deck.
Yeah,
and the same with
absolutely.
Frostburn Weird was essential for the red deck because it could block and then also become a very big threat later. There's no replacing the Judge's Familiar. This is a card in the time of the mono blue deck people tried to cut, but you're not going to find a replacement. They're not going to have 1-drops.
Oh, when I was blue-white control, every time they played that card in turn 1, I felt like I just lost the game.
Yeah.
Like, I can't win
good
anymore.
players, good players also got the cycle. So every time
Yeah.
they're like, oh, cycle the Azuri's charm because it's not going to get a guy.
Yeah.
No, I can't do the cycle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh, God.
So as well, the next one is there's been a contention at the table about this one. We'll have a talk about it. It's Molten Vortex. This is an enchantment
yeah.
for 1 red. You pay 1 red, discard a land card. Molten Vortex deals 2 damage to target creature or player. The fact that it can hit creatures as well.
Yeah.
This is new Seismic Assault, and Seismic Assault was the new Land's Edge. There's a lot going on here. This one might be the one that the mana costs are correct. Seismic Assault being triple red was
It had
really
around 8
tough.
mana symbols on it. You just never casting that thing ever.
Absolutely.
It just felt like you just never cast Seismic Assault. But this is 1 mana like that. This seems very pushed in my eyes.
Yeah, I like it.
I feel like this is pushed very.
I was actually going to talk about it. My feeling on the burn deck in Modern, which I feel like this slots in at maybe a 2-drop, like 2 in the side or something like that. My feeling was that deck always in the 10 opening cards, or the 10 cards you have, like so your 7 openers and your 3 that you draw, you want to be doing 2 damage per card. Now, unfortunately, this also includes lands, but you know you've got 4 damage spells and 3 damage spells. On average, you have to do 2 damage per spell. And this turns your lands into 2 damage spells, meaning now on average those cards with Molten Vortex all have to do about 1.5 damage, which is a huge difference to me.
Uncounterable shocks. essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not that people counter shock often. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the opposite here. I don't think it's a very good card. You could convince me that maybe this is a sideboard card against control out of red decks, but I think the discarding of a land is actually a really big cost in a format where you can't combo with it. So the problem with this is Seismic Assault was hard to cast, for sure. But when you cast it, you got to be the combo deck that just now shocked people with lands. You usually had ways to get back lands, most deck that played it, or you just played so many lands that you always had 5 in your hand when you got it. You can't do that with this card because it can't be a combo deck because you have to pay red mana for it.
Yeah.
And you can't, I think, play it in aggro because you play so little lands anyway that you need to pay a certain amount to play your spells.
Yeah.
And then how many are you left to throw at it? So when does this become a good card?
Probably your 4th land, I would guess.
Yeah, would you pay red and discard a card to deal 2 damage? No, that's a bad magic card. I don't think you play that.
No.
Would you play red to discard 2 land cards to deal 4 damage? Then it's okay. I don't think you get a return on this card till you're playing red. Now I know that's over turns. And discarding 3 cards deals 6 damage. In fact, I think it's a bad card up until that point.
Yeah.
You can convince me that maybe in control matchups against red that you could play this, and now the game is going to drag out so long because they have a Sphinx's Rev-esque effect that this will be valid. But
Or to control your board to kill all your guys, and now you can't attack anymore.
So you want to sneak something under counter spells that can also get them. But I don't know if this is a wholesale good card.
I don't know.
Alex also pointed out as well that this might be a card that makes Loam Assault more viable, because the thing that always kept that deck down was the triple red for Seismic Assault was pretty difficult, and
But the now tapping the mana is going to be.
You're
I feel
gonna-
like it's at least.
you're gonna
as-
need
as
triple
big
red
a
anyway.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to go shock every turn. Like.
And you're not like then you need 5 mana to loam every turn.
Yeah, the idea exactly. You have to cast a life in Loam as well. So usually you go like end of turn, throw 3 things at your face, untap,
dredge back to life in the lawn, cast it again, bring back my lands. That's the only thing I'm casting.
Yeah.
And then just,
In fact, I don't think this is broken. I think this is their attempt at making a fixed
definitely.
seismic assault.
yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
where it might be a little bit worse when you get to like the end of your plan in Loam Assault, this has a little bit of power in the early game where it can help like kill
Yeah,
creatures
for
and
sure.
control the board a bit, whereas Seismic Assault is sitting in your hand, completely uncastable
Yeah.
and useless. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting card. I'd be willing to see as well where it pops up. It feels like a 2 in the sideboard of a lot of decks for me.
I feel so.
We're going to see though coming up. But this one, I think we all agree, this has legacy potential. This is eternal potential. This is Hallowed Moonlight. It's 1 and a white, and it's an instant. Until end of turn, if a creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Draw a card. That draw a card line, that makes this card amazing, main deckable. In a lot of I think Legacy,
Yeah.
where if you think about a lot of decks, it just shuts them down. It shuts down Show and Tell, kills and it stops Entreat the Angels from working. You know, that's a big thing. It stops token generation.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Portling Outburst, it's the perfect counter
For
to it.
standard, yeah.
The comparison is definitely this is Containment Priest, except you draw a card instead
Yeah.
of get a 2/2.
Yeah.
And the question is, does cycling make it main deckable? Because Containment Priest is already in sideboard cards and white decks everywhere. So can you now, like a bit like Shadow of Doubt does in Modern, or Shadow of Doubt probably pops up in Legacy every now and again as well. But can you now play maybe one of this main deck, and then if they're not playing the deck that it's affected by, cycle it out in the turn?
Yeah.
Out of Miracles, maybe out of Stoneblade or something like that. Maybe this pushes them, but this,
I wouldn't think so. I think this is, sometimes you'll get people, and then other times you're playing a 2-mana cycle, and that's just a bad card in Legacy. So, maybe as a sideboard card, like it's not necessarily strictly better or worse than Containment Priest.
Yeah,
They both
Priest
have
can
their
be
own
killed
advantage.
as
Yeah,
well.
Priest can be killed. I can't remember actually the interaction with Show and Tell and Priest. I don't believe if you put the Priest in, does it kind of kill both creatures if you show and tell?
because
Yeah, it
they're already-
doesn't
they're already-
they're already in
Yeah,
play,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So I was thinking
So-
that maybe the Priest had an upgrade on this for that reason, but no, that doesn't work. But this could be main deckable. Is the kind of the reason that it would be playable over Containment Priest?
Definitely
I don't-
sideboardable.
Yeah, but
Maybe,
you don't
maybe.
have to take up a sideboard slot. Is the point you're making? Where I would say, I just think this is way too low impact. That if just because you can cycle it for 2 mana doesn't make it okay. Like cycling for 2 mana in Legacy is a very poor card, like a very very poor card.
Well,
so
It's a better option than just having a Grizzly Bear in hand as well
Yeah.
at the same time.
but yeah. I mean, you're not main decking Containment Priest.
Yeah,
so.
I know, but yeah,
I
I
do-
just think that a lot of the decks would prefer a card in hand than a 2/2 on the table.
Yeah.
Like the ones that want to be able to use this effect, like in a game.
Well, if I'm against Sneak and Show, I probably would just argue that the 2/2 is just better. I don't want to be.
It
I
depends what you
think
play.
also as well, spells are harder to resolve than creatures because you've got
That's-
Spell Pierce, Fluster Storm, etc., etc.
There's
So
just the other side against something like Elves, though, which you would like a Containment Priest against sometimes.
Mm.
Now they can't abrupt decay in response.
Yeah.
It's something that happened.
Yeah.
So there are upsides to both. This is going to have modern implications, though, as well. Like Legacy, it's hard to see, and people just have to test it because there's so many pros and cons. There isn't an effect like this in modern at the moment.
Splinter Twin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it delays it for a turn at least. Like,
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Which might be long enough.
No, it just
It-
because it's only a spell. Sorry,
Really importantly,
Sorry,
it gets company.
it does get company
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Really
Counter
importantly,
company
for
draws
both
spell.
standard, where it might be looking very good, and it is currently very good in
Modern, yeah.
in modern in the Elves deck, and somewhat that there's a Naya deck. Naya Zoom now plays 4 of it.
I hear there's an
Lingering
Esper
Souls
gifts
and-
deck
Yeah, Lingering Souls.
tearing up the place there recently as well with the reanimation on the Ion or something. It could work there as well. You never know.
Yeah, I can easily see a couple of these inside. But the Shadow of Doubt gets main decked in modern sometimes. Why not 1 or 2 of this instead?
So yeah, another one as well we're seeing, which I think will mostly have standard implications, is Infinite Obliteration. It's 1 and black sorcery. Name a creature card, search target opponent's graveyard, hand and library for any number of cards with a name and exile them. Then that player shuffles his or her library. This is cranial extraction, but you just name the card. Surgical extraction, not cranial extraction.
Oh, Crane
This-
Extraction was
Cranial's-
the original.
Cranial's
One of the
original.
originals.
Ha!
Aha.
Take that, Alex.
Yeah. Can we
Cranial
talk? Can we
comes
talk about the
down-
next card?
Little fact, Cranial Extraction was at one stage a $30 card that you had to purchase. Yeah.
Nice.
This has effects on standard because
You name.
Abzan has some trouble dealing with the Raptor engine out of certain decks. And now, it's not good. People are talking about it hitting Ujitai, which I don't like, and not giving that deck an answer. People are talking about it hitting Rhino, because people don't like playing against that card. But it's not good if you're trying to hit certain creatures. What happens if they hit a Rhino before you draw this, for example? It looks
I'm
super
never
bad.
ever siding this in to try hit a Rhino.
No,
Not a chance.
No, exactly.
No.
Where you want this is, I'm going to kill your Raptor, and now I'm going to remove it from the graveyard and your hand and your deck. That's kind of, you wanted to get cards like that. It also maybe when Den Protector's going a bit mad, making sure you hit something in the graveyard as well is.
But my argument against that is a very simple one. If you're playing a matchup where that kind of grindy nature of the Deathmiss Raptor and the thing is coming up, I don't want a card that potentially does nothing whatsoever. I don't want to draw this card that might do something and it might not do something, and I cast it and they've none of them in their hand and I've just done absolutely nothing.
That is
I just
true.
want to play my own Deathmiss Raptors or my own Read the Bones or my own, Planeswalkers or whatever. I want to play real cards.
That is
you know?
true, but some of the builds are just would
Being
literally be a
heavy.
good match. It would literally be a good matchup if that missed Raptor didn't exist. Now, I'm not saying this is a good card. I'm just saying that's the only implication I
Yeah,
can see in
sure.
the standard of it.
For me, this is a zero play all
Yeah.
the time card. I would never want to ever play with a card like this. But,
Yeah.
whatever.
The do
Each
nothing
your own.
potential is too big for
Yeah.
me as well. Like I don't like
What
Yeah.
What if in modern you can Dark Ritual and then you can just look at them and name Goblin Guide. Just look them straight in the
Yeah.
eye and go
Yeah.
Goblin.
Goblin, three of them in their hand. No, like
They
you've
go,
got Surgical
"Ah."
Extraction. Surgical Extraction is the most recently kind of pushed version of this card. That's his play.
We had extra.
We had
play
extra
before that as
played
well.
a bit before that, yeah. Surgical Extraction can be played in any deck technically for free, and it sees some play, but it has kind of very specific applications. I see
This is
people
more
side that
slaughter
in.
gamesy though.
Yeah.
Well, okay, sure, but I mean, yeah, you're right. Actually, it is more slaughter games.
We had this in standard actually up until recently. We had one for X. It was 4 mana and X, and named X cards and moved them all, and that saw exactly zero.
Yeah.
play.
I did just the point I was going to make about Surgical Extraction was it sees play. People put it in their sideboards in Legacy in particular, and they side it in all the time incorrectly. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
People siding in a Surgical Extraction when it's a bad card to bring in a matchup. You shouldn't be worrying about trying to catch this and maybe doing this. And you should be bringing in good cards like removal, threats, and whatever else. You shouldn't be worrying about trying to fight these battles that may not happen, and you're left with a dead card.
Yeah,
And that would
yeah,
be
yeah.
my opinion
I
here.
think this is they're trying to find a card like that will be playable because they popped up enough time and they only see some play. This is just their next step, and maybe we'll see another step in the future that's playable. I think eventually we might find something that's playable. Maybe it's putting it on a creature. Might be the next step of just putting
Putting
this
effect
effect
on a creature.
Yeah.
So there's a little value to be had.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that might be the next step. So next one though is this one definitely has modern and legacy implications. Harbinger of the Tides. This is a Merfolk wizard for a blue and a blue.
Yeah.
It's 2/2. You may cast it as though it has flash if you pay an extra 2, so 4 mana to give it flash. And when it enters the battlefield, you may return target tapped creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. This card is good Merfolk with Aether Vial, with any of this sort of thing. Main deck hate against Twin.
I like hate against your creatures.
Yeah.
The guys you're attacking me with.
Absolutely.
He has some
Hitting
versatility where you can just play him as a bear on turn 2.
You can maybe
and just
protect
start
your own
getting
creatures.
there. You can, maybe, I guess, yeah.
Oh
protect your
no,
own
creature an
from
opponent
removal.
controls.
Okay, fair enough.
It
But-
wins the race,
yeah.
really.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just want to play a guy in turn 2 and then play a lord next turn and start beating in. And other times you go, I can afford right now to play a couple of guys out in the first few turns. I have my vial, for example. I'm sitting here with mana up, and then you just have this trick that just comes along. And it's nice.
Hitting a Flip Delver seems like pretty big
Yeah.
news
Yeah.
for me in that
Absolutely.
matchup, so they can't race you anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're left with removal spells and not a threat on table. Like, this deck's going to take over.
Yeah.
Also, it's double blue for I think it's good enough for standard, to a degree, and the double blue. It might be the 2-drop that mono blue deck was wanted because it does have the Harbinger Elemental, I believe it's called, the 3-drop, and then it'll get to go Masterways. But
It has a triple blue 3-drop. It has 2 double blue 2-drops in the format.
Still no 1-drops.
There's still no good enough 1-drops.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Hypnotic Siren still hanging around, but it was never great.
It was never good.
Yeah.
That deck never played Nykthos at the end, where people are like, oh, I can Nykthos into a mind control.
Yeah.
No, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
The problem with this deck is the Owl and the Cloud Fin were this perfect combination of 1-drops
Absolutely.
that made this deck tick, and
Yeah.
it's just not a deck without a good 1-drop.
now, this card, everyone freaked out about when this was announced. We have Goblin Pile Driver in Modern now.
I was talking to Evan about this. This is a really big coincidence. I was talking to Evan. We were talking about, I think the topic was budget decks in Modern, and he's like, "Oh, you can build burn." I'm like, "You can't. It's worth so much money. You know, it's the fetches and some of the spells and the Eidolon, Goblin Guide, Eidolon. This deck is actually a mid-level expense Modern deck." And I'm like, "What would have to be printed for Mono Red to be played over this?" And I went, "Pile Driver." I was like, no way.
Goblins to be played over.
Yeah, they're like, what would Mono Red? He just said Mono Red. I'm like, Pile Driver would have to be printed, I think, to start with other cards. And then we're like, nah, they won't really print that for standard. Like,
is Pile Driver even enough though? I don't know.
Lackey,
I'm
I feel like is the thing. That's not getting reprinted. But, let's just quash those rumors right now.
Lackey might
Spoiler alert: Lackey's not getting reprinted. Not a chance. I would not put Lackey in Modern.
I thought it might be reprinted when they didn't. Instead of Siege Gang, they gave us the new legendary.
Yeah.
The 4-mana 2/2 that makes 1/1s, and it's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to Siege Gang. I'm like, did they not make that a goblin? So we have Lackey.
Think about Lackey in Modern. Are you joking me, man? Lackey into Siege Gang Commander turn 2 in Modern.
I'm going to reveal something. I was playing playtesting Modern deck, and I love Tribal at the time, so I was going to try and do goblins. This was 2-3 years ago, so the format was a bit different. I didn't know Goblin Lackey wasn't banned in Modern because it had the new Modern.
Siege Gang.
Because it had the new Modern border update. No, I played it was all like 3-drops. It was like all of the Goblin Chief Lords and stuff like that. And even with no Mace.
King. Yeah, she's not in mine.
But yeah, King and all of them. And even with this guy with Lackey, deck still was
You still are missing the
War Chief.
War Chief is one of the biggest ones. You also don't have the well, I don't think that sees much play, but you don't have the Ringleader is the one I'm thinking of. Ringleader is a huge
Matron's also big.
Matron and Ringleader are both massive deals.
It's still a lot of explosiveness out of one card. It's hilarious that it randomly has protection from blue.
Yeah.
It's really hilarious.
Should I actually read out what the card does for all of our
why not? Yeah.
Goblin Pile Driver is 1 and a red. It's a Goblin Warrior. Warrior is actually a big deal in Standard. That might be relevant. It's got protection from blue. I actually think that this might... I think, was it part of a cycle? Like just all the creatures have protection from something? I feel like that might be why.
No idea.
It's a 2/1. And...
1/2?
Is it?
I thought it was a 1/2.
Sorry, you're right. It is
a
a
1/2 that gets +2/+0 for every other attacking goblin.
Yes. This and Goblin Grandmaster are going to be in the same format for 2 months. And it might be bananas, maybe.
We have 1-drops. We have Fenris Street Denizen.
Frenzy Goblin, is he?
Yeah, we have
Frenzy
Goblin. Zergo isn't, but you can play some amount of non-goblins maybe.
They also printed a new 1-drop Goblin.
Yeah, he's weird though. He's only a 1/1 with Renowned. I'm not the biggest fan of him.
Renowned, but does he not?
He gets Menace.
He gets Menace. Yeah.
He gets Menace. He doesn't start. If he started with Menace, he might be good enough.
Yeah.
But you also have the what's the race? The Dragon Fodder.
Dragon Fodder.
You have Dragon Fodder. You have Hoarding Outburst. You have Rabble Master. You have the Pile Driver himself, and you have this massive amount of removal.
Krenko's obviously not around still. Krenko's gone.
You have like Stoke the Flame. You have Shock. You have all the burn. There's a lot of burn in this format in general.
Yeah.
Could be a thing.
Plus, as well, we're going back to Standard cards. Goblin Guide reprint.
No.
Yeah. I'm calling it Goblin Guide into
Heel Cutter.
Heel Cutter's a goblin, is he? Oh, of course it is. Goblin Heel Cutter. It's in the name.
Goblin Heel Cutter. Is it a goblin?
Why the deck might be good enough for Standard, though it is very... You already have Obelisk of Erd as well.
Oh, yeah.
But you have 4 Frenzy Goblin and 4 Heel Cutters to make blocks very difficult for your opponent. And then not only are you now not making blocks easy with 1/1s, you're making it with this guy that's also 10 too.
Yeah.
Swinging.
Yeah. We're running a bit on time, so we'll try and run through these really quickly. Big one on Legacy, Vryn Wingmare. It is 1 white and 2 colorless. It's a Pegasus, flying 2/1, and non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast.
Talia Garden's Raven on a 2/1 flyer for 1 extra mana.
Non-legendary.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Let's make your brainstorms cost 3-4 mana.
Yeah.
You don't look happy, Dan.
No, I'm not. I'm already not overly fond of the Debt and Taxes matchup. It's not the best. It's somewhere around 50-50, maybe slightly favourable. This just makes things worse for sure.
They already have they're already playing
4 Thalias.
Ports. They already have Port and Talia, and that was already enough to put a big strain on decks.
Yeah.
You're adding some of your superfluous 3-drops that could change from matchup to matchup. Now turn into 4 additional Talias without legendary. This is
awesome.
It's flyer.
big in favour. Anyway,
And also maybe Modern.
Yep.
Modern doesn't have debt and taxes, but now Modern has Vile and Talia
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this. So
new burn card, very similar to Char, except it's sorcery. Exquisite Firecraft. It's red, and 1. Deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Spell Mastery. If you have 2 or more instants of sorceries in your graveyard, it can't be countered. Solid burn spell. It being sorcery is a bit annoying, but
it changes the dynamic of how control works against red, though.
yeah.
So you used to stabilize, and it didn't matter if you're on 4 or 5. You have 1 counter spell and a win condition.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get down.
Yeah.
Now you have to make sure you stabilize before 4 life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the game is just over, and uncounterable burn spell is eventually going to come down.
And
Trying to change the dynamic of that.
4 doesn't even leave you safe, really. Like, if you can't finish the game quickly, they might just draw another. And
They
two
might
of
draw
them will
2,
kill you,
yeah.
like,
Or then you have to start countering shocks.
Yeah.
Oh, geez,
Yeah.
that puts me to 4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I don't think it's a great card, but it definitely gives something there. It'll see
standard,
play. Yeah,
it's
it'll
okay.
see play.
It's okay.
The next one is Woodland Bellower. It's green, and 4. It's a beast. It's a 6/6. And when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less. Put it onto the battlefield. Shuffle your library. Now I thought it was okay. So it's like
6/5, right?
6/5.
6/5,
Okay.
yeah.
You get Courser or something like that. But Dave, what creature do you get?
The dancing Detonus Raptor. Coming out shimmying at you.
Yeah.
Coming to get you.
Demis Raptor, or God forbid, a Savage Knuckleblade.
Yeah.
Give him haste.
Oh wow!
Oh,
yeah,
you're
good
talking.
talk.
Nux is pretty interesting. This guy looks like he could be a good 1 or 2 of in a lot of these green decks at the very late.
Yeah.
And getting back, what I like most, Knuckleblade is a very good target because there's already a 4-color company deck that was flying around.
Yeah.
What I like a lot about him is getting the debt misses. Then they rot the board or they kill both your guys, and you still have a debt miss drop in your graveyard.
You got stuff like Reclamation Sage
Yeah,
as well.
you
like-
get to play
yeah.
one stage. I 100% guarantee
Yeah, he'll
you
be gone.
this didn't say non-legendary in first testing,
And then Nissa was
Yeah.
and then they
made.
kept getting
Yeah.
Nissa, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this has to stop.
Yeah. Put it on legendary clause.
Get a
It's
2/2,
almost
get a land.
guaranteed. Yeah, you can just picture them
But,
adding
yeah,
that.
the first
word in.
person to do it.
Value,
It's
value.
turn 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Play a 6/5, get Nissa. Play
Play
a
my
land,
land, flip.
flipper,
Yeah.
cluster, go.
Make a 4/4. Go.
Yeah, somebody give me the pen and paper. I'm changing the wording
Okay.
on that card.
Next one, Shaman in the Pack. This one I think I'm calling it Elvish Fireball.
Fireball.
It's 1 a black and a green. It's a 3/2, I believe. It's a Elf Shaman. When Shaman in the Pack enters the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. You didn't see this card?
3 mana 3/2 with that effect seems pretty good.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is when you go really wide with the elves in
That is
Modern,
definitely a one-off in the Elves Legacy deck,
I
right?
think-
Legacy as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Makes it
It's
Wirewood
Just
Symbiote.
shooterable one-off in the Legacy
Well,
deck.
it also stops you from having to create a hoof, so if they have something like
Yeah.
Contender
Yeah.
Priest, you just go
Yeah.
draw. None of these need haste.
Yeah. Oh, he's got
Ensnaring
ensnaring bridge.
bridge,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
shoot you for
See,
loads, I guess.
I think
Bounce
it's
it
a
with
two-
Symbiote, do it again.
Or,
Yeah.
or
Wow, bounce with symbiote.
Yeah.
That's a definite one-off.
So I think it's a 2 of in Modern because you've got so many things like Court of Calling and things like that. So you just go,
company.
yeah, you collected companies. You just go, okay, I've got like 5 or 6 guys. Because it is actually a get there deck. Like you do hit them a few times pretty much, and then you just go
Elvish Fireball. You.
5 Elvish Fireball.
Elvish Fireball.
Yeah, I think he's
I
really good. I think he's a good. This guy is good to discuss all the ones that are coming in standard. There's the 2 mana 2/2, and if you control an elf, you make a 1/1 elf. There's a new 1 mana black elf that makes green mana to
Yeah.
pain you.
And he gives 0 to Elves Death Touch and stuff.
Yeah, there is they made the Elvish Ringleader again, whatever his actual name is, Sylvan. Yeah, 4 mana for a 2/2 trampling elf. Look at the top 4, get all elves.
Oh, nice.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Is it
Nice.
4?
Sweet.
4. He costs 4.
Oh, no, I'm saying does he get 4
Sylvan
or
Messenger.
5?
Sylvan Messenger. He gets
I
the
did
top
4
4
cards.
cards.
Yeah.
He's an uncommon.
And
Very
uncommon. This guy, him and company in the same format for standard for elves. You could play 4 bow in this elf deck now. Now with Visionary.
You have the
Court of Calling and Collected
Elvish-
Company are in Standard right now.
Yeah. So this
The
deck,
1 mana elf, the mana guy. You
Yeah.
have.
yeah, you have 8 1 mana elves now. 4 mystic, 4 of the black guy.
Oh, the black guy as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So for 2 months, elves might just be the best deck.
Savage.
Now, it's missing.
Seems-
The Lord they printed
Yeah,
is
Lord,
really
yeah.
unpowered. He's 4 mana for a 3/4, and when him or an elf attacks, you gain 1 life for each.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he's very underpowered. He gives them all
No
plus one,
pump.
plus one.
Oh, he does pump the team,
Yeah,
does he?
but
Okay.
the problem with it is he's 4, and you're already competing with company and the
Yeah,
messenger.
there's
at
nowhere
4.
to do it for sure.
And the last card we were interested in is Dark Petition, which is 3 black sorcery. search your library for a card, put that card into your hand and shuffle your library. Spell Mastery, 2 or more instant structures in your hand, gain 3 black mana.
Yeah.
Card's pretty decent.
Ending this on a legacy note,
Yeah.
I think.
Slam dunk at Legacy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
So-
it 4 of though? Or
No,
is
no,
it
like a
your
1
fifth-
of.
It's your 5th
In
thing,
ant,
or
yeah.
whatever.
One
Yeah,
of
it's
an
your
answer.
fifth tutor, like-
You get to go, oh, do this, get 3 mana, do the Hellbent one.
Yeah,
Infernal Shooter, and then
Infernal
go.
Shooter.
Sometimes as well, you want to do with the Infernal Shooters, you chain them to build up your
Yeah,
storm count, and then you go like Infernal Shooter, go and get an Infernal Shooter, Shooter, go get it. You cast it like 3 times, you've loads of mana, you know, and then the last one you go and get your tendrils and you kill them.
yeah.
This kind of just lets you net mana in a way and lets you do a different kind of take on that.
Well, it's the same. It's the same mana cost as doing that essentially. Like
Kind of, yeah. It's the same principle, really.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just
No, I like
one
that.
of. I think it's pretty good, and also it just tutors any card, and you don't have to be hellbound. So
yeah.
It's good in legs. Or good in Commander, Alison.
I'm not pretending I have the intelligence to do the maths of an ant deck
Hmm.
and figure out if this is actually better than maybe an ad nauseum or something like
Yeah.
that. But it seems like this set has a team of all these cards have potential.
Yeah.
So while I might have disagreed with some things you said and you disagree with some things I say, all of these cards have a hint of potential
Yeah,
somewhere.
definitely.
You know.
I agree.
Okay, yeah, we've got a call from a producer who wants to talk about Bad Time Twister.
Oh,
The
God.
1 blue,
Oh,
2
okay.
colorless.
It's worth bringing up.
It's
I
worth
guess.
bringing
Discard your hand, or is it exile your hand?
I don't know the exact.
You draw
wording.
7.
You shuffle
your
it back into your deck and you draw
Okay.
7.
Draw 7.
You
And
draw
exile the
first
card.
and then you shuffle them back.
Okay. Yeah.
You
And
exile
then-
it if it's your turn.
Yeah. Oh, well.
If it's your turn, you exile the card. If not, you can. If you.
I thought if it's your turn, end it.
Yeah, if it's your turn,
If
end the
it's your
turn.
turn,
No,
end
you
it.
always exile it.
No.
If the card doesn't say specifically exile on it, unless
Yeah.
it says end turn, it's not.
Yeah. It says something like, if it's your turn, exile this card and end the turn or something.
If,
Is that
if
what
it's
it
your turn, end the turn.
But it
Where's
does still
the
exile.
exile?
Oh no, that won't exile it. If it-
No. Part of the text of the card is
Exile.
after you cast it, exile the card.
Oh sure, that makes sense.
There's all of the-
Otherwise, that would have been super abused.
Yeah, there's all these catalogs to abuse
Would
it.
it?
I
Unusual if it hits in the graveyard, there's a way to abuse it pretty badly.
Yeah, but yeah.
the only deck I can theory craft with is for
Quicken.
standard.
Yeah.
No, people keep on saying Quicken, and I'm like, you don't care because the rest of your deck is just instants. So you just like pay 3 mana, do this, cool, recharge. I've got a bunch of counter spells, go.
Yeah, but
you
then
have
they
a full
recharge
hand.
as well,
Yeah,
like-
you have a full hand. I've just tapped half of my mana. Go.
So my way of playing it is maybe a Turbo Fog deck is the best
Well,
I can
but-
or a Burn deck.
the
Like
point-
it doesn't
yeah,
affect
the
life
point that
coverage.
Turbo-
Burn that's actually a good shout.
Burn is always a good check.
Well,
The,
I know.
the problem with stuff like Turbo Fog and maybe in some kind of control shell is the whole point of Turbo Fog is it's actually a grind out game. One, you're looking to mill them sometimes, and now you can't mill them because one of your main
Yes,
cards is
right.
shuffle your stuff back into the library. And 2, like the deck is always a balancing act, and if they have 7 fresh cards plus what they had on the board,
You're losing advantage.
you're probably losing your advantage. Like you're supposed to grind them out and make their creatures obsolete and
Yeah.
have a few fogs left. No,
Giving them
Here,
a bit
have
of
7 more
yeah,
cards.
Here.
Um,
Fresh. Great.
So before we actually wrap up here as well, the recent massive change. It's coming to the first Pro Tour, and it may be coming to other events in the future. Is the new Mulligan rule? Have you seen this?
New Paris Mulligan.
Yeah.
Love it.
Which
very
means,
interesting.
which means if you mulligan, if you start out with less cards in your hand than you would normally start out with, you get 1 free scry at the beginning of your
After
turn.
everyone keeps and okay,
Yeah.
we're grand now.
I was hoping it worked with Leyline. Play white Leyline in the main deck. Put it down, scry 1.
Yeah, which it doesn't work like that
Yeah.
because that's after you decide to keep. No, Dan, it does not
Sorry,
work
what-
like that.
what do you mean?
He was saying that you keep with the ley line, you put it down. Oh, I've
of
got
course,
6
yeah,
cards.
It's only if you have
if you keep with.
yeah.
What's very interesting about this is, Jer, if he's listening, actually pointed this out to me, is I thought it was very weird that they rolled this out at a Pro Tour, not a GP.
Sure.
Pro Tour is their marketing tool. They wanted to go right. The Pro Tour is a bit of a disaster at the end of the weekend. People are tweeting, well, that was effing stupid because that rule is stupid and gives people who mulligan too much of an advantage or whatever.
Yeah.
If it ruins something in the game, and if they do it at 1 or 2 GPs, they can go, sorry, fixed. But they pointed out they don't actually care about the people at the Pro Tour. And I know that's very callous to say, but if someone moans, my free money isn't
Yeah.
Yeah.
good enough, they're going to say, well, we flew you here and you got to play in a
And it
tournament.
gives them
I
something
think-
to talk about as well.
Yeah,
It's
where-
kind of a talking
where-
point for the
At
weekend.
a GP, if 1,000 people feel screwed over by this
Yeah.
new rule,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot more backlash
Absolutely.
than 100 people.
The
on
format is a big thing as well. I don't think they'd like to try this at a modern pro tour.
Yeah, I
with
would
those
say-
combo decks,
Yeah.
might just this will benefit combo decks a lot. I think,
Without a doubt.
It-
which is one of the issues it might cause.
I think
Well,
as well, a reason they want to do it at a Pro Tour is because I feel like Pro Tours, they're big viewer base. That's when they get a lot of viewers in, and it's, I think, kind of demeaning to the game when they go, okay, here we have a person on camera. Oh damn, someone mulliganed to 4, the game's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want those games to happen. They don't want someone to get screwed out because it's not as easy to show how good a play it is to mulligan.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, you know what I mean? When
Or
you
just
ha-
even show how good the game is in general. If
The-
people are just
absolutely,
watching
yeah.
Magic for the first time or whatever,
and they
you
go,
want it to
oh,
be
this person has
interesting.
4 cards, this person has 7
Yeah.
games.
Why are
over.
they shuffling for 20 minutes?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I think this is going to lead to a lot more six card one hand keeps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6. Yeah, keeping a bad 6.
But
Yeah,
it's also interesting because you don't get to scry till you decide to keep.
Yeah.
So while people are saying this might lead to less fucked games, it might lead to more because more people might go 6. Don't like
one
moving
ladder.
to 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
snap.
Scry that to the bottom.
Yeah.
Draw. Fuck, I lost.
And
Yeah,
there's
that-
also an interesting point that came up as well. You mentioned it with combo decks there, but I read the article today from Matt Sperling on Channel Fireball. He said about Delver Secrets.
Yep.
You keep you multi 6 with Delver Secrets, and you have a Delver in your opening hand. You just go scry. Oh, is that a spell? Okay, keep it there. Play a
Don't
Delver.
want that.
Flip them.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still a pretty high.
It's a small thing, you know, but
It's
you know.
small.
Only on the play, but
They're pretty consistent to flip as well.
Mm.
And yeah, only on the
On
play.
the play, of
You only
course,
have
yeah.
to.
But it's just
Yeah.
a small thing.
I
that comes
know,
up
that
with
is
it.
big.
I don't think I would go as far to say you always mulligan now when you're on the play with Delver because it's still one less card.
Yeah.
But that seems beyond combo, beyond control because you could argue every deck wants to look at that next card just in case. Maybe aggro less than control or maybe combo more than aggro.
Mm.
Yeah.
But every deck when it mulligans wants a chance at that free land on
Yeah.
top or free spell on
Yeah.
top. Where Delver actually actively benefits from the mulligan
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
at times.
I don't think you'd purposely mulligan to
No.
6 for doing that.
No, but
though,
now
right?
instead of being like, I was already grinding 1 for 1
Yeah.
deck, you're kind of like, okay, I can
Yeah,
do-
yeah.
is there Delver here? Yeah, I'm absolutely fine.
Okay,
Is
yeah.
flipping a Delver on turn 1 the most important thing in this matchup? Yes.
Yes.
Well, then this is a
Then,
mulligan
yeah.
to 6 makes more sense.
So there is the other rule as well, which is more standardization of how your battlefield has to be laid out.
Take that.
Which I'm absolutely 100% in favor of this. Unfortunately, it is only for
Pro
games,
Tour feature matches.
Feature
Pro
matches.
Tour feature matches.
Yeah.
Now,
For now, at least.
yeah, because I definitely appreciate it for what's on camera because for the whole process of
Adrian
viewing.
Sullivan is an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I
I've
mean,
no idea what's going
You
on
know-
when Adrian Sullivan is playing
Do
Magic.
you know what I love about Adrian Sullivan's thing? Years ago, he kind of openly admitted it's not cheating, but it will tilt some opponents, and that's
Yeah.
a happy coincidence. He didn't learn himself to do it to cheat.
Yeah.
He's like, it tilts people, and it's a happy
Mm.
coincidence. He used to tell stories about people would read his card and then put it back right, and he'd
Yeah, I
look
need
at
to
them
turn
and
it
twist
around.
back. And it would tilt people.
Yeah.
And he's a nice guy, and if he's telling stories about how the style of play tilts people, it should not be allowed in match.
But I definitely think it is something that would benefit the game if there is a standardized layout for the field. It's still kind of freeform, like it's not like here are the zones.
Yeah,
Like
people have stuff all over the place. When dredge players and stuff just
Yeah.
got their graveyard on my side of the battlefield, over
It
two
does a circle,
tens
spirals.
down, yeah, stuff like this.
I'm guilty of doing that with Dredge. I was the one that had it where my lands were supposed to be.
Yeah,
So I just sprawl out the graveyard
I hate
there,
it,
and my
like-
lands would be like up here. in
It's a
his combat
necessity
zone.
though, really. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why
I'm
you're
so
playing the
neat
game,
with
really.
my battlefield when I play the game. Like all my lands are like kind of in an angle down, like in piles of 5, and like everything is like at a nice angle here, and everything is laid out. And I have my permanents and everything. And on the other person's side of the table, people grab their pile of lands, put them all together in one little pile, and then tap like 12 man. I'm like, how many lands have you got there? I was like, I don't know, it's in one pile. Come on, do you
I
mind
know
if I can
how
see
many
your
lands.
It's
lands?
like
Like,
poker.
yeah.
1200.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that is important, especially for a viewer type of thing, for a spectator
Yeah.
to be able to see that this is how the board is laid out. It's very standard. This is how new players play.
It's
Um,
very funny that this rule has come from one professional player.
Yeah.
This rule has literally come from because not many people do it. Some do lands in front, and that probably annoyed people, but people were probably fine with it. Then Adrian Sullivan was in the
Yeah.
Pro Tour top 8, and they're like, No one that's not played extensive Magic knows what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, and they specifically say it in the rule as well. The permanents have to be facing the player who owns them as well. Like they had, you can't put the lands. He couldn't change his lands towards him and still turn them around. They now have to face him. So.
Yeah.
What would the rule be like in the case of elves? Sometimes people twist around their symbiote
They do indeed,
to say
yeah,
that
yeah.
it's
They-
would that be
they
permitted?
might do that
in the
because
course of the combo. Like,
Yeah.
Everything in Magic is
Or
actually
whatever.
grey and mostly up to the discretion of the head judge.
yeah.
And if you do that, maybe they'll let you away with
I'd
it.
say that's fine
But
actually.
I prefer stuff like, I know people like, oh, that might be a +1/+1 counter, but I like putting, like, if I play elves
Yeah.
at a tournament, there's a little bead on them every time I use them and pick
Yeah.
it up when I don't. Like, what if it's a +1/+1 counter? Point at the permanence that's
Yeah.
distributed.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then,
At what point in
Exactly.
this match?
and then we'll
Yeah.
start talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like it. I would, the fact that it only affects Pro Tour feature match and things like that. I kind of understand it, but I'd actually like if they were just like, here is almost,
Standardized.
yeah, just this is how you lay out your cards, because I think it is frustrating for some people. I think keeping, like, let's be honest, the relevant cards in a match are definitely the creatures and the spells you're playing, and keeping them farther away from your opponent, I think is unfair. I think it's a bad part of the game.
Yeah, I was saying something similar. There's two kinds of people that do this, and they're the players that learned how to do this, and it's unfortunate for them if the rules will change, but they'll get out of habits, and no player will ever learn to play the game like this again. And there's the people who are purposely trying to get an advantage, and that's not cheating because that's within the rules of Magic.
Yeah.
But that's not fair, especially on. It probably wouldn't tilt someone that's been to multiple events. What if this new competitive player comes and he's bought his standard deck and he's gone to a GP? He's like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
He loses a game not because of any play, but because this guy has his creature here and he didn't see what it was, opposed to his creature here close for his opponent.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it, like you were saying as well, it only affects like 1% of players, maybe even less.
So
So
for an overall improvement, there's going to be a
Yeah.
very small handful of angry people, and frankly, I don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
as well a way. My friend Cully, who is a judge, and he notices things a bit differently, which is always great, is that the mulligan rule, it says for tournaments going forward, only for the Pro Tour tournaments, but FNMs, not like those kind of events, aren't technically tournaments.
Yeah.
So the rule might be applied for them. I don't know, but that is something you could potentially take from
At
it.
the TO's discretion or something
Absolutely.
if they wanted to try it out.
It might be something going forward. I want to see a confirmation on that. Maybe it'll turn up, maybe it won't. We'll probably see once the Pro Tour happens or once the set's been released, if there's an
They
update.
may well say, yeah, you try it out yourselves and see what you think of it or whatever.
It'll be nice to have, because you know when you're at the GP and you have that one player that's like, oh, I'm so unlucky, I lose all the time and none of it's my fault, why am I not in the Hall of Fame? You can go, well, the game's fixed now, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mulliganing isn't the
Mulligan
end of
to
the world.
5 all you like. You get a free scry. Can't possibly